All right. This episode of the podcast is really what spurned the entire PD's Picks project, if you will. Like this is kind of what started it all. The website, the podcast, all the content I put out in the high school hockey space really stems from the creation of the top 100 names to know. I put the first list together at the beginning of the 2019-2020 season. I wasn't coaching at the time, but still pretty involved and around in things like Team Michigan and the MDHL and just a general fan and supporter of high school hockey over all these years. And so I thought with my background in journalism and sports media, I could really help draw attention to some of the big names in our game. And thus the top 100 list was born. I've since gone on to produce other pieces like the all senior team, the all junior team, freshman, sophomore teams, games of the week, the picks, obviously, fantasy team of the week. I did that for a season, mid-season dream team, and of course, PD's Picks podcast. But nothing has created so much buzz, so much conversation, feedback, attention as the top 100. There was a stretch for maybe 2 years where I didn't do the list. Just felt, when I was a coach of a team, it was kind of a conflict of interest, time spent researching and writing when it comes to, player X and things like that. It just didn't feel quite right to me when it could have been time spent reviewing film with my players or working on practice and things like that. So that's kind of that, I'll say, conflict of interest there a little bit. So, I kind of lost my place here. Here we go. But, even in that time where I wasn't putting out the list, I wasn't really providing commentary on social media and things like that on top prospects, I had dozens of people reach out over the years, asking when it was coming back. Is player X going to be on that list? So it was a really humbling. It was so humbling to me that the list had resonated with so many people all this time that, I essentially took 2 years off from doing it and was still getting so much feedback on it. That's why, I'm so pumped to be bringing it back this season, and I hope that you people watching and listening are excited too. So I think it's going to be even bigger and better and generate even more buzz, more great content from the list of names, plus a lot of others too. So I'm unveiling the list here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It'll be going there first. Be sure you subscribe here on YouTube, follow wherever you get your podcasts, and rate and review as well. Have some fun with that. Give me some feedback. I appreciate that. On top of that, be sure to go to the website, pdspicks.com. After the episode goes live, I'll have a write-up that I'll post that talks about every single player in the top 100. So be sure to check that out. And then, if that wasn't enough, I'm going to be putting out player profiles for each one of these players, plus everybody else that I have notes on or will have notes on as the season unfolds. So pdspicks.com will literally be your one-stop shop for all of the hockey prospects in the state of Michigan with notes from me personally. So follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and I'll be sure to notify you guys as soon as those player pages go live as well. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for. A little nervous here. Let me check. Okay, so I think we're good to go here. I got a nice little presentation here for you guys. This is going to be fun. All right. (100 through 91). I'll do this, and we'll even shorten this up here a little bit. There we go. Love it. All right. Let's see here. 100 through 91. Definitely wanted to mention number 100 here. Tim Hinkle, guy out of White Lake, Lakeland. He was top 5 in the state in assists last season with 42. He's got a real nice playmaking ability there for the Eagles. I think he can likely replicate that this season as Lakeland won 23 games last season because of Hinkle. I even saw very briefly on Instagram there, he had a good performance in their, albeit a scrimmage, but still stiff competition there in a scrimmage against Clarkston. Hinkle still producing against some of those top level kids that the Wolves have. So really like Hinkle there at number 100. Number 92, Carson Kacharski was another kid I wanted to talk about. He's a kid I've mentioned before on the podcast. He's kind of gotten buried over the last couple of years because of some of the other talent that's in the area in, Ann Arbor Pioneer over the last couple of years. Ann Arbor Skyline, a player we'll get to a little bit later. Celine, Gabriel Richard. There's so much talent in that area that Kacharski had kind of gotten bumped down the pecking order there a couple times because there were maybe some other notable names at reputable programs and things like that. But Kacharski is a 4-year guy for the River Rats. He's kind of been through it all with them. First year, 2 years were a little rough, had a really strong junior season last season, not just him, but the program as a whole. So he's kind of been a part of the Huron turnaround there and really responsible for a lot going on there. He had 30 goals last season, 42 points there as a junior. I think he probably has his best campaign yet as a senior. And I think the River Rats get right in a big way this season as well. Bounce back here. Oops. What did I do here? What did I do? Sorry, I'm trying to do this in real time. I thought, I got to do this. Okay. All right. Now we know. We'll move ahead here. We'll get into the 80s with a pair of nice looking goalies there and Luke Webster and Zach Jaakkola. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to bounce back and forth here. It's going pretty well. I like this. It's a good little, we're working here. All right. I wanted to get to, actually, Jaakkola himself, 84 here for Lumen Christie. Let me give you a couple notes on Jaakkola there. Just a junior in net for the Titans. He's played a bunch of minutes for them already. He played every single minute of the Titans season last season as a sophomore. Has the potential to be the best goalie in the South Central Hockey League. Really tough competitive league out there, sneaky good. And he was arguably the best goalie last season with a 91% save percentage, 215 goals against average. And on top of that, he's a really athletic kid that I think can make up for, he's not the biggest, the most imposing goaltender, but his athleticism certainly makes up for that. An MDHL kid here was one of the top tenders there for Team Green out of the West Side. So I wanted to get to him. And then one more here, Todd Capella out of Heartland, out of Hancock, sophomore defenseman. I don't usually feature too many sophomores on the top 100. I think I have 4 on the list this year, but it's a bit of an anomaly. That class of 2026 is really strong. It's crazy good in the UP. Capella, obviously, there is one of those guys. Talking with a couple coaches up there, he, as a freshman, was basically anchored the Bulldogs defense there, quarterback on the power play. So I don't care what grade he's in. He's going to be a stud defenseman here this season and expect big things from him and Hancock as well. So, okay, we'll bounce back here and we'll move on to the 70s. All right. So I got my guy there, Fisher Gurney from Grosse Ile, sporting the red. He's a top defenseman. I didn't have him in my notes to talk about here, but Gurney, probably one of, if not the highest scoring defenseman last season in the state. I could pull up my notes real quick on him, but I want to say he was over 50 points as a junior defenseman. Now, looking at the roster this year, I think he's kind of a hybrid forward / defense type. So he's just kind of a do-it-all there for Grosse Ile. A couple guys I wanted to touch on here. Cole Lefere, he checks in. Where do I got him? Cole Lefere checking in at number 80 for Northville. Uh, he's a super important piece of that puzzle there for Coach Ryan Ossenmacher in Northville. It's kind of been a rebuilding effort the last 2 years. This will be year 2 under Ossenmacher. They leaned on Lefere quite a bit last season, not just offensively, but I think as a leader in the locker room too, and kind of being that driving force in maybe changing the way they've done things over the last couple of years. He had 17 points in his first season of high school hockey last year. I think he's got the potential to double that in 23, 24. I'm going to say that about a couple guys, I think, on this list too, that just have the potential to really improve exponentially year over year. And I think Lefere is for sure one of those guys. Another guy here I wanted to talk about, Brendan Brothers. He checks in at number 72 here out of Riverview. Gabriel Richard. He's the guy I talked about a couple months back when I noticed him at MDHL and MHA tryouts. Big, strong defenseman. Maybe not the prettiest or greatest skater when compared to some of the other defensemen on the list, but he's still very effective. Really heavy shot. He's heavy on the puck from the blue line there. Not necessarily a big wind-up clapper from the blue line, but it's a hard, firm wrister that's low and tippable, easy to get a stick on, or maybe off a shin guard and things like that. So real smart with his puck play there on the blue line. I like that. And obviously pretty strong in the defensive zone as well, hard to play against below the goal line. And so if RGR is going to have any level of success this season, it's going to come from Brothers on the back end, really in both ends, offensively and defensively. So, okay, we'll get back to the list here as we get into the 60s. Unveil another 10 names there. I got a couple guys I'll talk about here. First and foremost, number 68, Max Tyler. Guy's been playing high school hockey for what feels like 6 years already. He's a guy I personally have known about for a number of years. I want to say maybe as a freshman, flirted with the idea of going high school hockey, went back to AAA, came out his sophomore year, played high school his sophomore year, and obviously has done great things ever since. So he's got a real nice top speed. He's capable of playing at a pretty fast pace when he gets the chance. He's that, like I said, that 3-year guy there for Cap City. So over that time has really become an effective two-way center, able to play the full 200 feet, as we like to say. Scored 23 points last season in a bit of an abbreviated junior year, missed a couple games there. Ultimately, though, has 31 career goals. So just a real knack for being able to put the puck in the net. I look to him, as I'm sure Cap City does this year, to have a big senior year. One more here from the list. Michael Horton was a guy I actually got a chance to talk to a little bit at the MIHL showcase. And he looked older than me. He looked like a man. He looked like a grown adult there. So he's going to be playing some big boy hockey there, I think, for Cranbrook. Good-sized skater with a nose for the net. Really knows how to get to the scoring areas, gets to the front of the net, puts him in a position to kind of clean up some of those garbage goals and clean up some of the mess in front in a really positive way. Led the Cranes last season in scoring with 13 goals and 32 points. That's in the midst of playing a top 25 toughest schedule in the state last season for Cranbrook. It'll be just as hard, if not harder, this year. But I expect both Cranbrook and Horton to be much, much better than they were year over year. So we will bounce back over here to the top 100 list, and we'll get into the 50s. And let me get back to my notes here. I got number 60 right off the top here. Brandon Davila from Chelsea, senior forward there, been with the program for a couple of years now. The Bulldogs graduated, obviously, 2 generational talents there. and McIntyre and Roberts. They're going to look to Davila to kind of fill that void and be that go-to guy offensively and produce, a good amount after what they graduated last spring. He's a fantastic effort guy, which is what I love about his game. You'll never question his work ethic. He's going so hard on the forecheck, coming back so hard on the back check, which is really what I love and a lot of coaches love, I'm sure. You'll never question this guy's effort in the way he works. Had a 16-game point streak last season as well. 88 career points. Pretty impressive. He's one of a couple guys on this list in the hunt for that century mark in career points. So he'll be a fun one to watch. Another one here I got to mention, Noah Miklos out of Trenton. I don't have many Trenton guys on my short list to watch here. And I think that's just because it's a different Trenton team. I mentioned it, on a previous episode. I just don't know that they quite have that star power offensively. And that's okay, because I think your star power might actually reside between the goalposts in Noah Miklos, and then they got another one, Evan Seavey there, who's a talented netminder too. They're going to have a good pairing there. I like Miklos, obviously, because he's the senior. He's got a ton of starts under his belt. I can't imagine there's too many Trenton goalies in the history of the program, which is a very rich history. I'd like to see how many netminders have played as many minutes in goal as Miklos, because he's got 37 career appearances already, and we're just now getting into his senior season. So he's seen it all, done it all, while playing one of the toughest schedules there in the MIHL. And Trenton obviously has made several deep runs in the playoffs while Miklos has been a part of the program. So he's kind of one who provides a ton of experience on the back end there. So even if Trenton is lacking that firepower up front, Miklos is a goalie who's going to give them a chance to win every night anyways. So here we go. We'll get back into the list. And we'll get into the 40s. All right. It's a good looking list, man. It's getting tougher and tougher. I'm gonna have more and more guys to talk about here as we keep going. It's tough to limit myself, but I'm not gonna put you through me talking about every single 1 through 100 on this list as much as I could. So, all right, into the 40s here. Johnny Kunz. Oh, am I ahead of myself? No, I'm not. Right here, 46. God, that's one of my biggest fears is I'm going to mention a player on the next slide. So I got to watch myself here and make sure I don't get ahead of myself. Johnny Kunz is a guy I got to talk about because of the way his teammates talked so highly of him at MIHL Media Day. They talked about how many minutes this guy logged last season on the back end and was really the anchor to their defense en route to a Division II state championship. I don't think he's going to have to log as many minutes this season as he did last season, because I think Rice in their experience has kind of come a long ways on the back end. I think they have maybe more options than they did a season ago. So I think the heavy workload may come off of Kunz's shoulders a little bit, but obviously he's got that experience. He's been through it all. He's played tough minutes against tough opponents, logging a long shift, long stretches in the D zone against a top CC team type thing. It's going to take a lot for Kunz to see something or to get him uncomfortable, basically, is what I'm saying. So Rice is going to be a top team because of Kunz being obviously a top defender there. And so I don't necessarily think they're going to lean on him offensively, but he will absolutely be a stud there on the back end, which is good because Rice may find themselves in a lot of low scoring games, tight checking where you need good defense. And Kunz obviously can be your guy there. So Nolan Bink, I got to get another sophomore here into the mix. Guy I wanted to talk about, if I can find my notes here. I've heard people talk about Bink potentially being the best forward in the state, in the UP, not in the state, in the UP as a sophomore already, which is pretty high praise given some of the other stud players that are in the UP. Bink was a major contributor last season as a freshman. And I think as him, Graham Johnson, Cully Hayes, that freshman class, now sophomores for Escanaba, as they continue as they continue to get older, Escanaba is going to lean on him more and more and more as that class kind of comes through the program. And so I think Bink is ripe for a big season, even bigger if possible. He had 20 goals and 38 points a season ago. 12 of those came on the power play. I believe all 3 of those marks are unofficially your state leader among freshmen last season. So will be fun to see what he does as a sophomore, and then obviously progresses as a high-level high school hockey prospect. We'll get in here and get into the 30s. We're getting down to it. Too many names to talk about here. Too many. That's all right. That's a good problem to have. I'll bounce back. There we go. One I haven't really talked much about. Saw a good little thing on Twitter last week about this kid, or I guess the family in general. So I got to get to Sebastiano Iavasle out of Detroit Catholic Central. He's a guy, every time I saw him, he just got better. And I don't know that there's too many people on this list who continue to develop and grow and add things to their game and literally get better every time they touch the ice. Iavasle, to me, is that kid, even going back all the way to last season and how he developed. A really strong prospect, I think, with a ton of potential, and really even in the MDHL, seeing him in regular season play, then seeing him in the showcase, like every time I got to look at this kid, he was better that time than he was the previous time. And like I said, I don't know that there's too many people in the state that you can say that about. People tend to have off nights. People tend to maybe regress or take a step back or not, or just have an off night. And I haven't seen that from Iavasle. He just continues to grow and get better every night. So it's really nice to see. A couple more here. Drew Lesperance. He's a kid I haven't talked much about either, really since the MHA showcase. He's a real big body, real big kid for being a 07 birth year. Handles the puck extremely well. He was one who, especially at that 16U age level where he's against other kids that are his age, his size, his strength, his speed really showed. And there were times where he literally took over the game, it felt like, in the puck when the puck was on his stick. Only had 10 points a season ago, but I think he plays an even larger role there for Heartland, a pretty young Heartland team. And obviously 10 points as a sophomore. He's got a ton of growth and opportunity there as he continues to progress through the program. I think he's in the spot to have a big winter there for Coach Rick Gadwa in the Heartland Eagles. One more here in the 30s. I'll sneak in a third here just because I want to talk about him. Owen Turner for Saginaw Heritage, senior defenseman. He was one I really liked, just the attitude he played with. He played mean. He played like he was pissed off at the opponent on a game-by-game basis. It was really impressive to see. And has some surprising speed, I'll say, too. Not that he's a burner, but he's able to hold his own when the pace picks up and get up and down the ice as needed. Showed a really good vision, too, in neutral zone regroups, being able to find open guys. Sometimes it's the long cross ice pass that springs someone, but also, especially as a defenseman, sometimes it's just taking those easy plays and going D to D or going up the wall to the short side to your near forward. And I think Turner does that. He knows when to pick his spots and swing for the fences, and then he knows when to take singles and doubles and just keep the puck moving. Scored 18 goals and 40 points last season as a junior. Those are tough numbers to probably replicate from the back end. But ultimately, if Heritage is going to have the success I think they're capable of having this season, Turner is sure to be a big part of that. So, all right, into the 20s. Couple of favorites here, a lot of favorites, really. Let's be honest, we're getting down to it. Got to talk to the man got to talk about the man in the photo. Wow, let me try and redo that there. Jackson Froysland, to me, he played a large role on that Byron Center team getting to a state final last year, even as a junior. I've talked about Miklos and Breet kind of having that star power, being those go-to guys for Byron Center. But Froysland was right there in the mix too. I want to say he was, second on the team in scoring behind Logan Nicholas, who, oh, by the way, currently plays in the North American League. So being second to somebody, you're second to a real, a damn good player there. Froysland, 24 goals, 61 points a season ago. Super involved, obviously, on their playoff run. And I believe, okay, I wanted to make sure I got this right. Currently has the longest active point streak in the state at 15 consecutive games. That dates all the way back to January 14th and goes all through their entirety of their playoff run. I don't know that anybody else in the state is even in double digits, let alone 15 like Froysland. A couple more I want to get to here. Gibson Grundell, he's a guy I've talked about a couple times now on the podcast. Wanted to make note of it again here because I just, as I was putting together the write-up and things like that and going through my research and stuff, putting this list together and thinking about Grundell, because of the way he skates, he's such a strong skater, great footwork. When he has that, if he can put the rest of the game together, which he's already starting to show signs of, whether it's puck skills and moving the puck and being smart with it, pushing the back end, staying engaged, if and when those attributes start to develop and he starts to really craft that, as he already is, Grundell, because of his skating, has a really high end, a super high end potential. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because he is just a junior and obviously there's a lot of development that still needs to happen in the process. But I don't think this about too many players, but because of his skating, he's capable of sniffing the USHL, of getting to your tier 1 junior hockey in the United States because of his footwork and his ability to skate. Now, a lot's got to happen between now and then to get to that point, playing with speed, which he does, and moving pucks and being active and doing some of those things, which he already does. It's just a matter of kind of perfecting your craft and really owning it and being the best at it. So because of his potential, his high ceiling, I got Grundell here checking in at number 23. One more I want to get to. Carson Cagigol is a guy I haven't talked about much this offseason for Stony Creek, but he's a guy I really like too. Pretty good footwork, I think, and a real nose for the net. He missed a third of the season last year as a junior, but still managed to produce 30 points in 20 games. I just love, he's a great energy guy, high effort, likes to compete, battles well on the forecheck, and kind of surprises defenders there with his speed a little bit, where, if a defender's got his back to him and he's going in on a puck retrieval, he takes a peek. All right, I got time. I can make this play. I can get around the net. And then he picks up that puck and Cagigol's on him and forcing a turnover. So Cagigol there to me is a real sneaky one there who can make some good things happen this season. All right, we get into the teens. Only a couple more left here, boys. How do we feel? I'm excited. All right. Number 17, I wanted to talk about Carter Cate. He was another one who, as I'm putting this list together and putting the write-up together and looking back at my notes, Cate was one to me where I was like, shit, if there's one guy on this list I don't want to play against, it's Carter Cate. He's just got a bit of an edge to his game, an active stick. He can play pretty physical. He's not the most imposing on the ice, not the biggest or scariest looking player on the ice. But man, he's one to get a shoulder into you in the corner. He's one to, if you're carrying the puck up, he's going to stick check you and give you a solid check there on your stick and force turnovers. He's, what did I say? He's just got a good understanding of the game, where the play is going, where the puck's going to be. And because of that and his ability to be physical, he's meeting people at the puck, which forces scrums, forces turnovers, and ultimately will force good things to happen there for U of D. Nolan Burner, here's another defenseman. I got Burner at 15 and Roman Seco there at 16. And they're very similar type players to me. Both very high-end guys. I like them both on the back end there. Really good footwork. Seco is a guy, obviously, I've talked about a good amount this preseason. Burner, as I got a chance to watch him again at the MDHL showcase, really stood out as to why. And he's similar in Seco in that he's got really good footwork. He's very fluid with the puck. Never under duress, like really just does a nice job of, his hands and feet being in sync as he's getting pucks and moving them too. Was a Team Michigan guy last spring, 53 career points to his name in 3 seasons there for Flint Powers. Won the state championship last season. I don't know that there's much left for him to accomplish at the high school level. He's kind of seen it all, done it all, and been there. So, Powers, I've talked about them and how much they lost last season. They're going to need him, obviously, to be a big part of what they do this season, and obviously very capable of handling that workload. So Nolan Burner there at 15, definitely worth noting. One more here. I'm going to number 11, Thomas Boynton Fisher, kind of a unique one because he was playing AAA hockey last season in Phoenix for the junior Coyotes. And I know you're probably thinking like, well, Craig, I thought this was a list of returners. Well, Boynton Fisher played for the Bay Reps 2 seasons ago and then went out to Arizona. Now he's back with the Bay Reps in 23-24. I couldn't be happier, and I'm sure the Bay Reps couldn't be happier about Boynton Fisher coming back. He was a guy who, as a sophomore, led the Reps in scoring with 30 points in 27 games. He's got really good size. At times looked to be one of the best forwards for MHA this fall. He does a lot of little things, good things that coaches like to see, whether it's a hard F1, he's good on pucks and board battles, doing some of the dirty work. I don't know that he's going to razzle dazzle or, flash the hands too much or do anything that's really going to blow you away. But just his sheer size, the way he uses it to his advantage, really does a lot of good things there. And between his size and his ability to be an F1, who's another one here? Ethan Coleman and his ability to make plays and make good things happen. I got another Bay Rep coming up here in a second. Like, the Reps have the right pieces, different roles that these guys kind of fit into. If they can execute on those roles and play their part, almost like a good rock band, you got a lead vocalist, you got a guitarist, you got a drummer. Like, if all those guys can play their part, it can be a really pretty season there for the Bay Reps. And I obviously like Boynton Fisher here at number 11. All right. We get into the top 10. Number 10, I got Braden Lewis out of Matawan. He's a junior, and I believe, let me double check real quick and confirm if I can get to my screen. Here we go. My highest rated underclassman, Braden Lewis here at number 10. Loved this kid at the MDHL showcase. He flashed another gear at times, a top level speed that not many have. If he can piece that together with his puck skills, with play recognition and things like that, because he can play at that speed, I think it sets him apart from maybe some others who may be more stat stuffers or may have a better stat line and things like that. Lewis, his ability to play at a fast pace sets him apart from some others. Not to mention he's pretty creative offensively. He attacks the offensive zone with speed. He's doing scissor plays with and without the puck, right? He's got the puck and he's scissoring and leaving a drop pass, or he's trailing the play and slashing and picking up a drop pass from somebody else, darting to the net without the puck and making himself an option. Just a really good understanding of his skill and how to use it to create opportunities is what I like here about Braden Lewis at number 10. Number 11 or no, number 9. We're not counting up, PD. We're counting down. Number 9, I got Connor Raffelli, senior defenseman out of Houghton. Smaller in stature, but he's more of a puck mover there from the back end. keeps the game simple, does a lot of good things, and makes a lot of good things happen because of the way he keeps the game simple. Doesn't try to overdo it or overcomplicate it or really make life tough on himself. He was the Gremlins' top defenseman last season, and obviously they had a very impressive run. He averaged a point per game and has 54 career points entering his fourth and final season of high school hockey. Obviously, a ton of promise there. Houghton is one who, yeah, they may have graduated a lot, and I've kind of been maybe not downplaying it, but there's question marks, as I've said. Houghton can still very much surprise me, surprise the rest of the state with a really strong outing here because of a guy like Raffelli and a couple other guys that they have at different levels in that lineup still, even after graduating, their number 1 and number 2 scorers from the season ago. Number 8 here was the other Bay rep I was alluding to. Grant Lucas is a guy who I've actually kind of, I don't want to say forgot about, but I was talking about the Bay reps, I think it was last week on the podcast, and mentioned Boynton Fisher and mentioned Coleman and some of those guys. And Lucas was one I kind of glossed over. Lucas, in my opinion here, the best of the bunch because of his ability, his sheer ability to just be a finisher and just put the puck in the net. And that's kind of what I meant by putting that band together. If Lucas can be that goal scorer, Boynton Fisher can kind of be that grinder, hard-nosed type. If all those can kind of sync together, Coleman being the playmaker, if all those can kind of sync and get going on the same page, that line could catch fire, that team could catch fire offensively and be a really tough out for just about anybody. Bay reps, this is a pretty impressive. 16-1-0 when Lucas scores a goal and 2-6-2 when he doesn't. So as many weapons as the reps have this season, make sure this guy gets his because wins and losses may very well depend on it. So definitely one I wanted to highlight here at number 8. Number 7, we go back in the UP. We might stay in the UP here for a little bit. We got Nash Reapy, senior defenseman out of Marquette, just a senior forward. That's a typo on my end. We'll get that ironed out for you, Nash. Unless you want to play defense. Maybe we'll keep you there. I don't know. Solid all-around forward there. Was just strong in all 3 facets of the game. He's got really good size, too. If you look at him, he's a big kid. Solid on the puck, strong on his feet. Marquette was pretty deep last season. They were rolling 4 lines basically all season long. Yet Reapy was still producing at a pretty high and impressive clip, despite maybe logging lesser minutes than some other people around the state. 18 goals, 33 points. And he's another guy who Team Michigan last spring and a top guy for them there. He's another one who has kind of seen it all, done it all, and really gone the high school route the right way, going to the right showcases, playing in the right camps and competitions and things like that. Like I mentioned, Team Michigan, and obviously Marquette, the program in general, does a great job of coming down and doing things like the MIHL showcase and Chelsea showcase. So Reapy there is an easy one for me here at number 7. Number 6, we stay in the UP for, this is my highest rated player from the Upper Peninsula, arguably likely to be the top forward, top player in the UP, Mikey Millette, senior forward out of Houghton. I was mentioning earlier talking about Raffelli that Houghton graduated a ton, and Markham and Carlson, who both I saw on Twitter as recently as last night, lighting the world on fire playing juniors in the AJHL and in the North American League, both doing impressive things. Millette and Raffelli could kind of step into that role, fill that void, and be those go-to guys. Millette is a guy who, towards the end of last season, really started to find ways to finish. He's a guy who was generating a ton of offense, generating a ton of opportunities, just wasn't quite able to connect and find the back of the net. Down the stretch, what did I say? Yeah, after holiday break, after that January 1st, January 2nd part of the calendar, he scored 20 goals in the second half of the season there. So it really started to click for him and able to make good on those opportunities. I think he continues that into his senior year. I think he probably has his best season yet. And if he does that, could very well put Houghton right back in the mix on the state level, even after graduating maybe two of the best players in the state last spring. So Mikey Millette there, big things to come for him and Houghton moving forward. Number 5, I've talked glowingly about this kid all fall. He is my number 1 rated defenseman in the state. Graham Newton out of Ann Arbor Skyline, a kid I've absolutely loved. Again, not because he's the flashy, sexy defenseman who's going to wheel and deal and go end to end and make 4 guys miss, and then he's going to finish and go bar down. I think he probably could. I think he's probably capable of that, but he's also smart enough to pick and choose and know when to take advantage of those opportunities and when to just keep it simple. So I don't know that his game is going to flash and dash and wow you in the stands. He's one who you really got to pay attention to the subtleties of his play and go, oh yeah, he's got next level potential. You look at even just his first or second strides there in changing in directions. And I mean, he's going forward and then the play transitions and now he's got a back pedal. Those first couple strides get him going to top speed pretty quick. He's able to put the brakes on and head north in a hurry and get involved in the play. If you really pay attention to this kid's game, you'll see those subtleties that set him apart from other defensemen, not just in the area, but in the entire state. 42 points last season for the Eagles there, 9 points in the MDHL as well this fall. I think he's going to have a big year, and I think he's going to show people why he's a top defenseman here in the state of Michigan. Number 4, I got Lane Pettit, my guy out of Brighton here, senior forward. I think he's actually the key to the Bulldogs' success this season. They've got a ton of talent at all 3 levels. I've gone down the roster before. Penela on the back end, he's on my list. You saw him a couple slides ago. Charlie Birchfield is another one. Mason Blow, Ryan Watkins on the back end. They've got playmakers. Sider is another one. They've got guys all over this lineup that can make plays and have an impact. To me, Pettit is kind of that straw that stirs the drink there for them. He does a lot of things other players in general might not have as much of an appetite for. He's winning puck battles. He's scrumming it up along the boards and forcing turnovers. And then once he's forced that turnover, he's finding an open guy for like some of those guys to finish and bury on an open net. Not to mention 53 goals in his own right, 92 career points at Brighton. He's another one of those guys that'll be sniffing the century mark before long. And given the schedule that Brighton has played and will play, to score 100 points in that program is kind of mind-boggling, to be honest with you. So Lane Pettit, to me, big one to watch there for the Bulldogs. Number 3, we follow that up with another Bulldog, Cam Duffney, senior forward, one that's drawn a ton of attention in recent years and really one that's been circled on a lot of people's lists really since his sophomore year. I have him here because I think he's capable offensively to do things not many, if anyone, in the state can do. The way he's just a pure goal scorer, finds open ice, the play just seems to find him too. That's the other thing that I wrote on the blog here that'll be up soon, is it doesn't matter if it's the state triple overtime in the state quarterfinal game against Livonia Stevenson, or if it's the MDHL showcase in a 1-goal game on a Wednesday night, or it could be shinny hockey on a pond and you got to score and next goal wins before you got to go in for dinner. The puck just always seems to find Duffney when the game matters most. And not only that, he's got a God-given ability for just being able to finish when he gets those opportunities. Not many people can sum all that up into one. Some people get those opportunities and can't finish. Some people can finish but just can't find the open ice to make it happen. Duffney, I think there's improvements he can make to kind of be that all-around player, be it defensively in the D zone and being a full 200-foot player. But because he's so dynamic and so talented offensively, he's got a very high ceiling, a ton of potential, and with the game on the line, there's nobody else on this list I'd rather have the puck on their stick than Cam Duffney here at number 3. Number 2 here, I got Jackson Walsh, forward from Detroit Catholic Central. Watching him in the MDHL this fall, he looked like a man amongst boys at times and literally just took over the game. And not to mention that, but take it another step further and take the best players out of that league and put them in an MDHL showcase. And Walsh was still the top player in the game and making plays and making things happen. There were times when it just looked easy to him, and he's out there on a line rush, casually carrying the puck up like it's a men's league game with time and space, and just says, oh, sauces a pass over, and then they score a goal. There's times when it's just looked too easy for him. And he does a lot of things in a very well-rounded totality in all 3 zones that is going to be very beneficial, I think, there for the Shamrocks and Coach Brandon Kalnicki. Scored 39 points as an underclassman there for CC in their route to a state title. I think that kind of gets slept on a little bit, given some of the top prospects they've had and how deep that roster was last season. That might have even gotten overlooked at times, just how talented Walsh was as a junior for CC. And without further ado, let me take a drink here. We'll get ready for the number 1 player on PD's top 100 names to know in Michigan high school hockey. I got Owen Croston from Clarkston, senior forward. Every time I watched this kid from July until last week, every time I watched this kid, every shift, he did something to grab my attention. And as an evaluator, as a scout, like, you're looking for those moments. You're looking for a strong burst of speed. You're looking for the flash of hands. You're looking for the hard nose, being around the net, being in scrums. And every time this kid touched the ice, he did something that grabbed my attention in that way. And not to mention, on top of all that, he's a big kid too. He's 6 feet tall, skates really fast, got that quick first burst. Like, it's not just a top line speed, straight line where he's getting up and down the ice on a back check. It's that quick first burst when the play changes directions, or he gets that opportunity to jump in and be a passing option, and now he's gone on a breakaway. That, to me, is really what stands out and what really separates, maybe these top 5, top 10 players from some other people in the state, is that quick first burst that you just don't see out of many guys. He wins those board battles. He's aggressive. He's hard on pucks. Are there flaws in his game? Sure. There's flaws in everybody's game on this list. But to me, like I said, with that combination of size, that burst of speed, that heavy shot, his ability to finish, his knack for driving the net hard and being in those scoring areas is really what makes his game so unique and pretty special here at the high school level, that I think he's going to have an ability to impact the game in ways very, very few can at the high school level. So let's see. There we go. All right. Okay. So that is 100 names to know in high school hockey for the 2023-24 season. Let me just say, I take no pride in being right about anything I produce. It's fun to speculate and make predictions and offer up my opinions. And sure, we all like to be right at times, but there's no joy in, see, I told you player A was better than player B. Like, not what this is about for me at all. In fact, I'll be the first to admit I get quite a lot wrong with things like this. And I don't mean to dismiss my efforts by any means. 7 of the top 10 players from my inaugural list played Tier 2 junior hockey or higher. 3 of them currently play Division I college hockey, and 1 more plays Division III college hockey. 1 of them spent this summer in training camp with the Red Wings. The second edition of my top 100, 29 of those players went on to play American Tier 2 junior or Canadian Junior B or higher. Both Mr. Hockey Award winners, 11 of the 12 Dream Team nominees. The point I'm making is For those of you on this list, prove me right. For those of you not on this list, prove me wrong. Either way, I'm your biggest fan. I want nothing but the best for you. Good luck this season. Skate hard, have fun, and I'll see you at the rink soon.